that is h of x is equal to, so this one is a piecewise function. Let's say we have 2x. This is x minus 3. This is 4. And this one is x squared plus 1. And we have the following conditions. Each subfunction will have their own specific set of domain. Let's say, for example, you are going to use h of x is equal to 2x when the set of input values will satisfy this interval, let's say negative infinity or all numbers less than negative 2. Then you're going to use x minus 3 as a function when it satisfies all numbers from negative 2 to 0. You're going to use h of x is equal to 4 when that is all numbers greater than 0, however, less than 5. Then you're going to use x squared plus 1 when that is greater than 5, when the input value is greater than 5. The definition of piecewise function is clear. It only informs you that you're going to use any of the following subfunctions if and only if the input value will satisfy the requirement. So ang ibig sabihin nito, class, nire-require niya ang mga ito. So let's check each subdomain. All numbers less than 2. Okay, hindi siya kumontra kay negative 2 to 0, right? So the third, all numbers greater than 0 but less than 5. And the last is all numbers greater than 5. But I need to enclose this. Now to check whether you are good already in evaluating function, let's try this. What is the value of h of 10, h of 6, h of negative 2, and we have h of negative 8. Okay, so let's try this very quickly. Let's say we have h of 10, and then we're going to find the value. The first thing you need to consider, this is 10, the input value. So as to what interval does 10 belong? Is it A, B, C, or D? Well, obviously, 10 is found on the interval D, right? So I heard someone commenting the answer. So the answer is we are going to use this function x squared plus 1. So substitute from x squared plus 1, let x be equal to 10. So we have 10 squared plus 1, and 10 squared is 100. 100 plus 1 will give us 101. So h of 10 is equal to 101. For h of 6, we have to take a look into what interval does 6 belong, and it is obviously on letter D interval, that is all numbers greater than 5. So you can still use x squared plus 1, and that will be equal to 6 squared plus 1 is 36 plus 1, and we have 37. Okay, for h of negative 2, you are going now to identify to what interval does negative 2 belong, and it is found here. So it's letter B. So use x minus 3. So that will be negative 2 minus 3 is equal to negative 2 minus 3. Here you have negative 5. I just enclosed negative 2 for emphasis that we substituted x into its equivalent, negative 2. Okay, what about h of negative 8, where negative 8 is less than negative 2, right? So it is found on letter A interval. So that your answer is, you are now using 2x as the function. So we have 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. You notice, class, that when you are solving for piecewise functions, evaluating piecewise functions, one of the conditions that you really need to satisfy is take a look into the subdomain as to what domain does the given x value belong. It's like in h of 10, 10 belongs to the set of numbers greater than 5. That's why we use letter D, x squared plus 1. 6 is a number greater than 5, so we use x squared plus 1 still. Negative 2 is part of the interval with subfunction x minus 3, making it true that we have negative 2 as we substitute minus 3 gives us negative 5. Negative 8 is found on the interval letter A because that is less than negative 2. We use 2x, so we let x be equal to negative 8, which now gave us negative 16. Is that okay, class? You just need to type yes if okay. If you have still question on the evaluation part, then you please comment your question. I'm waiting for 5 seconds. So I guess your silence would mean there's no question. But if you have, okay, so there is a question. Yeah, it's just a simple substitution, John. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is just to check as to where can you find 10, to what interval does 10 belong. It's like this, 10 belongs to the interval under letter D. So you substitute. For 6, this 6, itong 10 ay kasama dito sa interval letter D. Kaya ginamit natin ay x squared plus 1. Substitute x into 10. So you have 10 squared plus 1 will now give us 101. Ang 6 naman ay napapabilang ulit kay 5. All numbers greater than 5. Greater than or equal to 5. Kaya ginamit pa rin natin ang x squared plus 1 kasi ang 6 ay mas malaki sa 5. This negative 2 is part of interval letter B. Kaya ginamit natin is x minus 3. However, for negative 8, itong panghuli, ay napapabilang siya sa letter A interval kasi negative 8 is less than negative 2. So gumamit tayo ng 2x. We let x be negative 8, giving us 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. Okay? So parang it's a review of general mathematics in your piecewise function. I think this was your week 7 or week 8 before last sem. Okay, but then class, the idea of evaluating function in piecewise function is not exactly the same with the idea of limit of a function. Because for the limit of a function, it is specific on identifying how does left of a number, right of a number behave. Are they the same? Do they both exist? Okay. These are the questions that now answers our query on the concept of limit of a piecewise function. The piecewise function, excuse me, when you are solving for, di ba, that is h of x. So limit of h of x as x approaches c, any real number c, will exist if and only if it must be true that the limit from the left of that c, x approaches c from the left, x approaches c from the right. Itong dalawang ito, they must be equal and they both exist. But by the way, how do we define the term exist? Whenever you encounter the term exists in calculus, it means this is a real value. There must be a real value. So when you say real value, it's a real limit. So it's found on the real number system. Okay? So when we say the limit exists, that it means to say there is a real number value. There is a real limit. So parang 2, 5, 1 half, 3, negative 3, negative 2. Those are real numbers. So ibig sabihin, sila ay nag-e-exist. At masasabi mo daw, if we don't see any simple negative or positive on top, ibig sabihin, ito yung tinatawag nating two-sided limits o limit. Pero kapag yung nakita mo to at ito din, ibig sabihin, these two indicates one-sided limits. So ang condition dito class, ito mag-exist if and only if and only if limit from the left, this one is left, and limit from the right, both exist. The two of them must exist, itong condition, and equal. Ibig sabihin, yung left at saka ang right must also have a real value at dapat pareho sila. So kung ang nasolve mo sa left ay 7 at ang nasolve mo sa right ay 7 din, ibig sabihin 7 din yung two-sided limits. Pero kung ang nasolve mo sa left ay 6, ang nasolve mo sa right ay 5, then the two-sided limits does not exist. Can you get the point there? It's all about equality. It's all about the same value. Yun lang naman ang sinasabi niya. Kung 7 ang left, 7 ang right, 7 din ang two-sided. Kung 6 ang left, 5 ang right, does not exist ang two-sided. So kung ang two-sided ang nag-exist, example, ang two-sided ay 11. Edi 11 din to ang dalawa. Kasi yun nga yung condition mo. Is that clear? If you have question, I'm waiting for your comment in 5 seconds. Klaro ba yung left and right limit na kung pareho silang dalawa ay yun din yung value ng two-sided limits? Pero kung magkaiba sila, yung two-sided limit ay hindi mag-exist. Okay, so one responded yes. It's understood for. Okay. Now, to emphasize the limit of a piecewise function, tignan na natin, balikan natin yung example kanina, yung given function kanina. Yung given example kanina, nasaan na yun? Ito. Kapag ito ay ginawan natin ng limit problem, okay? Pag gumawa tayo ng limit problem on this, dito nyo na mapapansin yung left, right. Pero bago tayo pumunta dun sa left and right, I would like to talk about this two-sided limit, or I am going to share to you, ano ba, kung ito ba ay 5, this is 5. Kunwari ito yung horizontal real number system. Ito ang 5. So, all numbers greater than 5, we have 5 and positive infinity. However, all numbers less than 5, okay, so literal na sinasabi nito class, na kapag sinabi sa'yo left of 5, right of 5, ganun. Nasaan dito ang left at nasaan dito ang right? Class, it's very literal. Literal lang naman ito. Ito ang right. Natural, ito ang left. Kabila. So pag tinanong ka, limit as x approaches 5 from the left. Kasi the symbol this one signifies left. Saan ka titingin? Is it the orange or the violet? Kasi this is piecewise. So it is understood na titingin ka ngayon dito sa left. So saan siya napapabilang? Ano yung function ng ganitong interval? Okay, ganun yung mga dapat natin intindihin as an introduction. To appreciate that, let us have the first example. So for example, we have limit of h of x . Okay, para makita ninyo. What is the limit of h of x as x approaches 5 from the left? Limit of h of x as x approaches 5 from the right. Okay, Again, the first thing you need to understand is left of 5. Ang ibig sabihin ng left of 5, these are the numbers less than 5. Where can you find these numbers less than 5? In what interval? Okay, so maglalagay ulit ako ng letters for identification, okay, purposes. So, saan siya napapabilang? In what letter kaya? Anong interval? Di ba obvious that it is letter C? Tama? Because all numbers which are less than 5 are found very close to this, 0 to 5. Just like 4.999 is a number that is very close to 5 but not less than 5. But not greater than 5, nor 5. So ibig sabihin, gagamitin mo to. So this will become limit of 4 as x approaches 5 from the left. And that is the limit of a constant. So the answer here is 4. So what about if you're looking into right of 5? Nasaan dito ang anong interval ang napapabilang lahat ng numbers greater than 5? Obvious letter D. Ano ang kanyang function? X squared plus 1. Therefore, you have to make use of x squared plus 1. So we have palitan ng h of x into x squared plus 1 as x approaches 5 from the right. So we now have palitan ang x ng 5. So you have 5 squared plus 1. So this will now give us 25 plus 1 is equal to 6. Okay. Can you follow? Can you follow that the entire solution on left and right? The first thing you need to do is to observe as to what function does a number left of 5, very close to 5, but it's found on the left, o ito yung number na pinakamalapit sa 5 pero mas maliit sa 5. At makikita mo siya on interval letter C. Kasi yun nga, between 0 and 5, and that is 4.9999. That's almost 5, but it's on the left of 5. Ginamit natin ang letter C wherein h of x is equal to 4. Kaya pinalitan natin ang h of x into 4. We change h of x into 4. This one, it becomes 4. However, if you are looking into the limit of h of x as x approaches 5 from the right, we made use of letter D interval, which provide us this function, x squared plus 1. So just substitute, kasi itong 4 naman is constant, kaya there's no change at all. However, here, we let x be equal to 5, so we have 5 squared plus 1 is 25 plus 1 is equal to. This must be 26. Okay, that must be 26. So, kung ganyan na nangyari, ang left ay ay 4, if left is 4, y gets closer to 4. Right of 5, ang y gets closer to 26. I-compare mo tong dalawa, left and right. Do they both exist? Yes, because 4 and 26 are real numbers. Are they equal? No, obviously, 4 is not 26. Therefore, kapag tinanong ka na dito, ano ang magiging limit? Ano ang sagot pag two-sided limit naman na yung tinanong? Ngayong hindi natin na-satisfy ang equal. Na-satisfy man natin ang they both exist. Pero hindi sila equal. Therefore, ang mangyayari, the limit of h of x as x approaches 5 does not exist. The reason? Simple. Because left and right, though they exist, but they're not equal. So the two-sided limit does not exist. Okay? So I think let's have another example. So with the same given, with the same function, let us try to answer this. What is the limit of h of x as x approaches -2? Limit of h of x as x approaches -2 from the left. And what about the limit of h of x as x approaches okay, sulat ko ulit. Okay, may you please give a try? I'm giving you 5 seconds. May you please try to identify the limit of each function. Limit of h of x as x approaches -2, and then left and right. 5 seconds. Okay, hindi nyo kayang sagutan agad yung una kasi kailangan mong unahin yung left and right. That is a clue here. You need to first answer left and right limit. The one-sided limits muna yan. Okay, mag-start tayo sa left. Left of -2, sabi niya. Saan dito napapabilang ang left of -2? It is obvious on letter A interval. So, ibig sabihin, you have to use 2x. So, ang mangyari dito, magiging limit of 2x as x approaches -2 from the left. And now substitute 2 times -2. The answer is -4. Okay? Dito naman sa right of -2, this must be right of -2. Okay, right of -2, obvious ang letter B kasi -1.999 ay mas malaki sa -2. At makikita mo siya sa right ni -2. Yung pinakamalapit, no? So, ibig sabihin, ang gagamitin mo dito for h of x is x minus 3 as x approaches -2 from the right. And that will give us, substitute -2 minus 3 is equal to -5. Now compare -4 and -5. Do they both exist? Okay. Yes, they both exist because they are both real numbers. Are they equal? No, they're not equal. So it means to say this does not exist. So the two-sided limit does not exist, and please do not use equal sign. So ibig sabihin, ito ay hindi nag-exist. Is that okay? Is that understood? Class, just type yes if that is understood. If not, to what part did you fail to understand? Okay, to check if you really understood this portion, I am going to let you solve one problem, but you need to identify the three, the left, right, and the two-sided limits. Okay? Okay. Magbibigay ako ng, sige, pareho pa rin yung ating given. With the same given, I want you to determine the limit of the following. And I want you to comment your answer. Dito ka malalaman if really you understood ang ating piecewise function. What is the limit of h of x as x approaches 0? And what is the limit of h of x as x approaches, mm, let me use 1. Limit of h of x as x approaches 0, and limit of h of x as x approaches 1. I am giving you 1 minute to determine the limits of these two. Take note that one of them may require the left and right. Okay? So let's see. 1 minute. And comment your answer. Okay? I'm waiting for your answer and giving you 1 minute before we proceed now to exponential function. Ang greatest integer function ay gagawa na lang ako ng video lecture or magla-live ako at any time before your quiz para mas sa tingin ko mas may elaborate ko. Kukulangin talaga ng isang oras kapag i-integrate ko yun. Okay? Okay, last 10 seconds. Okay, so time's up. Now we're going to answer the following. On the first problem, limit of h of x as x approaches 0, when are you going to check the left and right when you're not going, or when you should not identify the left and right? Okay, let me repeat. When are you going to check left and right? When are you going to ignore left and right? Ito na yung sinasabi nating critical values. And how do you know that the number is critical, or the part of the critical values? Ito yung mga numbers na nasa gilid, tulad ng 0, 5, 0, ito negative 2, ito 5. Critical numbers sa mga yan. So ibig sabihin, sila yung mga nasa gilid, so sila yung papansinin mo ang left and right nila. Pero kung ang number ay hindi naman napapabilang sa critical set of values, then you don't necessarily need to check left and right dahil automatic daw na yun na yung makukuha mo. So katulad ng limit of h of x as x approaches 1, 1 is not a critical value. So ang ibig sabihin nito, i-check mo lang kung saan napapabilang ang 1. So katulad lang din siya ng value ng h of 1. So 1 belongs to the interval under this, the third. So this is good as, the answer is 4. Why? Because it is a constant function already. Dahil from 0 to 5, dun napapasama si 1. But 1 is not a critical value kasi hindi siya yung nasa gilid. Okay? Or last in the interval. Samantala yung 0 is a critical number, a critical value. So ibig sabihin, you need to check its left and right. Now to start, you check the left of 0. So what about the limit of h of x as x approaches 0 from the left? So magagamit natin itong second, wherein this will now be written into limit of x minus 3 as x approaches 0 from the left. Substitute, you let x be equal to 0. So we have 0 minus 3. So the answer is negative 3. Samantalang itong right of 0, napapabilang siya sa pangatlo, the third interval. Kasi 0 to 5. So all numbers greater than 0, which is very near to 0, ay makikita mo dito sa interval na pangatlo. Katulad ng 0.0001. Those are very close to 0. Okay? Therefore, ang gagamitin mo dito is the constant 4. As x approaches 0 from the right, the answer is 4. In this case, class, you need to observe left and right. Left versus right. Left provides you -3. However, for right, it gives you 4. They both exist, yes, because they are real numbers, but they are not equal. Therefore, limit of h of x as x approaches 0 does not exist. So the answers are does not exist and 4. So that makes it crucial on that part. Kapag napansin mo na critical yung value, doon mo na i-check yung left and right. Ang mga critical values lang naman, ito yung mga nasa gilid. Tulad na nakikita nyo, -2, 0, 5. Pag hindi na siya part of the critical value, ang gagawin mo na lang ay nag-evaluate ka na lang ng function. Hanapin mo kung saan napapabilang ang 1. At ito ay napapabilang dun sa pangatlong interval. Kaya siya constant na yung 4. So the answer is 4. Samantalang yung una, it is 0 and 0 is crucial or the critical, one of the critical values. So you check the left of it at makikita mo naman yung left na pangalawang interval siya napapabilang kaya gumamit tayo ng x minus 3. Palitan ng x ng 0, 0 minus 3 gives us -3. Samantalang yung right of 0, gagamitin natin yung number, yung pangatlong interval kasi doon mo makikita yung mga numbers na pinakamalapit sa 0 pero mas malaki sa kanya, giving us 4. Compare -3 and 4, it will give us, they're not equal, though they both exist. So the two-sided limit would now tell us D and E, or it does not exist.